So the highly polarizing movie 28 years later has finally come out, and I just want to say that I was pleasantly surprised. And not only by the plot, but by other things as well. I think that going into this movie, a lot of people were expecting it to just be your generic apocalyptic survival or something more like The Walking Dead, except with more advanced infected. Literally anyone that dies in The Walking Dead show by the actual walkers would not have survived more than a day here. The infected in this universe are just ridiculous. Regardless, I think that's where a lot of the mixed reviews on this movie are coming from. It seems like everybody is in agreement that the first half of this movie is really great, and then the rest of the movie only about 50% of people enjoyed, and I am in that 50%. The director Danny Boyle and the rest of this team obviously wanted to tell a certain story here and take it down a more niche and unique route rather than it be more of the formulaic zombie media we usually get. But I can see at what point where this movie probably started to lose a lot of the audience. In my opinion though, the second half of this film is where I feel like it really got more of my attention because I was going into it thinking we were going to get a movie that's more like the first hour. And not that the first hour is weak by any means. The first half of this movie I love, but where it's just characters surviving and most stuff that we've seen from this type of media before. But when this story starts to go in a direction where we don't really understand everything we're watching, but we're eager to learn more about this world and to see more of it, is really where it just caught my eye more and I found myself more immersed in what I was watching. From a lot of the reviews I've been seeing though, it seems like the general consensus of people nowadays would rather have the same story and formula told with this apocalyptic survival-esque type of media, but with just a different set of characters, than a fresh new story or ideas to explore with a different kind of structure. And I actually agree with that same statement when talking about Elio as well, but I'll get into that later. One of my biggest positives that I had watching throughout the entire film was the sound design, the score, and the music used. They get so creative here, and obviously everybody who's seen this movie, I'm sure has heard that it was shot on a bunch of iPhones, which is so unique, and no matter how that may sound like a good or bad thing, even though it was shot on a bunch of iPhones, the quality is still very good. There's a couple more blurry shots, but other than that, there are some really sick shots in this movie that tie in perfectly with the music and the sound design that I mentioned before. And there was really only one editing choice that was made multiple times where it took me out of the movie slightly. When the main characters first come into contact with the infected, every time they land a shot, there's this weird freeze panel and then the body just falls down. But at most, it was just a little head tilt worthy, nothing that takes away from the movie for me. The performances I thought were also a highlight of the movie. All the adult cast did really great with what they were given, but Alfie Williams, I just thought he was outstanding. Being the main character, he was given a lot more to work with emotionally, and I was eager to see more from him. First movie he's ever been in, by the way. I can seriously see him becoming a huge star in the future. His acting talent is just insane, and I want to see more of a range from him. But overall, the arc that we go through with the characters in this movie, I thought was really great. For the first half, you get the high action, nail-biting bit, and then the second half, they allow you to get more attached to the characters and tell an actual, real emotional story that I thought was expertly done. And from this point on, I do want to get into spoilers for 28 Years Later, but I'll put up a timestamp for the people that want to avoid being spoiled and for when I start to talk about Elio. So here's your warning. Starting with the first half, I think that for being a movie within an already introduced world and franchise, it does a great job at immersing you and not making the viewer feel like they've just been dropped into this world without knowing any context. And from the ending, it seems like they want to continue this story with the same set of characters, which I think is the right choice going forward compared to the previous movies. I think everything to do with the infected is also great. They do an amazing job at making the alpha seem incredibly menacing without degrading the rest of the infected. The baseline infected are still major problems here. They show that it's really hard for the characters to deal with the faster moving regular zombies. But undoubtedly the strongest piece of this movie is the attachment we feel towards Spike and the rest of his family. And the movie focusing on that is what really makes it great. Spending the first half of the movie with Spike and his dad, getting us to root for them as a team and a sort of coming of age story, only for Spike to find out that his dad has been even cheating on his mom at the midway point was so compelling. And with his mom being deathly sick, Spike making that difficult decision to leave his dad with his mom in order to find this doctor so she can be cured shows a lot of character development and just makes the audience so attached to this kid. It was at this point where I realized that this movie was special and that the production and writing teams actually cared about what story they were telling, which makes me so excited for future sequels. And then as soon as they meet Ralph Fiennes' character, the story and message starts just to really cut deep and trying to get us emotional with the thoughts of death and accepting that it is our reality, and then directly after telling us that Spike's mom is dying of cancer and that there's no cure is just such an easy stab to the heart. I assumed that his mom was probably going to die from the start considering the condition she was in, but to watch Spike's thought process and reaction to everything I thought was just brilliant. Now the last 2 minutes, I do want to say they didn't lose me or anything, but I really started to raise an eyebrow with whatever was going on with the dude that Spike met up with at the end. I'm willing to let Danny and the rest of his team do their thing, but I'm cautiously optimistic. 8.5 out of 10. I'm actually blown away at so many parts of this movie. I think the message and the coming of age story are good, performances good, visuals good, sound design and music good. Just a couple small complaints and nothing that really made my jaw drop to bump it up anymore for me. So Pixar also just released their new movie, Elio, and I thought it was a pretty worthy Pixar installment. I'm also not going to spoil anything in this movie at all, so yeah. I want to lead with the fact that the marketing for this movie and recent Pixar movies in general has been absolutely atrocious. These are kids movies that need a ton of marketing because of the competition that's out there and how everything revolves around getting people's attention nowadays. It also doesn't help that people in this day and age don't care for original stories, and the movies that make the most money are the sequels to what were previously original movies back in the day. It's the sad truth, but people just don't really care for new and original stories. So with those two factors, as unfair as it is, this movie will flop. I'm going to bring up Elemental as another example of this weird rollout that Disney has been doing for their Pixar films. Elemental was the lowest box office opening weekend in Pixar's history because of its terrible marketing and it being a new story no one recognized. But since that movie was so amazing, the word of mouth and fans of the movie got people to go see it in a theater, bringing up the box office total to a positive outcome. Now, Elio has the exact same problem, except in my opinion, it's definitely not as strong of a movie as Elemental, and I could see no word of mouth coming out from this movie. I genuinely think that the lack of marketing and it just being an okay movie is what's going to kill original ideas like this for Disney. I really hope they can see their mistake and move past this, but the loss of money from this movie is going to put a really bad taste in their mouths for the future. Now, the movie itself, I think that the concept, animation, writing, and characters are all pretty solid in this film and are definitely what brought it up for me to being a solid movie. The ideas explored are pretty similar to what Pixar has done in the past, but the framing of the movie is different enough to make it interesting to watch. The humor is also pretty strong. Also, the emotional moments they give definitely hit in the way that they were trying to, but there wasn't any singular moment here to where I'll look back at this movie and be eager to rewatch it. And I think that's the main point I want to make. This movie is just forgettable. Not a bad movie by any means, but there isn't any lasting impact that comes from it. Even when it comes out on streaming, people are only going to watch it one time maybe if they happen to see the promotion of it on Disney+. And where the issues for the actual movie come along is, for one, the pacing is pretty blah in my opinion. I don't know if I was just tired or what, but the first third of the movie dragged a lot for me, even decently into when Elio was in space. But once you meet the primary antagonist, the movie starts to pick up a bit. I do think they do a decent job at making you feel for Elio in this movie, but for that first third, I found myself not caring for him, even with all they tell us he's been through. It seemed as if they thought what he's been through and them just telling us that flat out, that it would have us care for him rather than him actually be likable like other Pixar characters. Wall-E has zero dialogue for the longest amount of time, and I cared for him way more than Elio. He's not a bad character by any means, especially by the end of the movie, but I felt that the beginning did a rough job at getting us to actually enjoy Elio's presence. I do think that the voice acting was very good though, and I think that if Disney had put more actual effort into headlining this movie in marketing and maybe giving this movie a little more time to have some tweaks here and there to get some more impact from the movie, I think that this could have had some real potential. 6 out of 10, nothing too special, nothing that had me thinking about it while walking out of the theater. Just another solid animated movie that's added to Pixar's list. As always, let me know what you guys thought about both movies down in the comments below. Tell me I'm wrong, right, leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to keep going to the theaters because that is the best way to watch a movie.